We're going to be taking a cross-country trip along 281. Alright everyone, today we're going to be doing the longest 3-digit continuous US highway, US 281. Despite it being 1,800 miles long and connecting Canada to Mexico, it is a very underwhelming continental connector as it only goes through one major city throughout its entire length, as the rest of the route is basically as rural as the thumbnail here, but also does become concurrent with a few different interstates. So let us get started with US 281. As you can see here, this is the map of US 281 where it has two southern termini, one in Brownsville, Texas at US 77 Business, and the other one Hidalgo, Texas, right at the Mexico border, and it travels all the way up to the North Dakota and Canada border near International Peace Garden, North Dakota. So with that, going northbound on 281. So we begin here on the Great 281 here in the great state of Texas, where you can see that we're getting a 281 reassurance shield, along with meeting Texas Highway 48. And it looks like that US 281 here is getting the same treatment as US 41 over in Miami, where you're getting signed for 281 West instead of 281 North, which kind of does make sense because we are going due west. And this is where US 281 will take a turn to the north as it will head into Far, and this is also where we meet the eastern terminus of the western segment of 281. That will take you over to Hidalgo, Texas. Here in Far, we meet with US 83 along with Interstate 2, and if we take a look on Interstate 2, we can see that we're now signed for Edinburgh as our next control city, and we're also concurrent with Interstate 69C. Here is the main exit for Edinburgh, Texas Highway 107 here. And here we get our first mileage sign with San Antonio on the bottom line from 216 miles away, so that is awesome by TxDOT here. But once Interstate 69C ends, we're now getting signed for Lynn and San Manuel from 8 miles away. So I guess I'll have to cue the TxDOT meme because we are now becoming inconsistent once again. I do not like that. A little ways up the road, we do get San Antonio as our primary once again from 210 miles away. I'll get Fall Furious as our secondary from 47. And here is the main exit for Fall Furious as we meet Texas 285. And a ways up the road, we're now getting signed for Alice as our next control city, so San Antonio has gone away again, which I do not like. Here in Alice, we meet with Texas Highway 44 and 359, and they'll take you over to San Diego. No, not that San Diego. And if we take a look on the route, we can see that we're now getting signed for George West. I want to see San Antonio, please. But on our next mileage sign, we do get San Antonio as our primary once again from 126 miles away. And here in George West, we're being with US Highway 59, and this is also where Interstate 69C is going to be roughly meeting Interstate 69W. And 281 is going to be continuing north towards San Antonio now. But our next mileage sign, we're just getting the town that we're going to be meeting Interstate 37 at instead of San Antonio on the bottom line. Like, come on. Here outside of Three Rivers, we're now going to become concurrent with Interstate 37, and 37 and US 281 are going to be heading north towards San Antonio. Here is where we split off from Interstate 37 as we're now getting signed north for Pleasanton, so I think that's an okay choice because it's faster to take 37 to San Antonio here. And here we get a one-liner for Pleasanton from 4 miles away. After going through the town of Pleasanton, we're now getting another mileage sign and we get San Antonio as our primary once again from 32 miles away. Here we are entering into the San Antonio metro area, and we're first meeting the outer loop, Loop Highway 1604. And now we're going to be joining with the inner loop, Interstate 410 for a short concurrency, and we'll also concur with Texas Highway 130 here. And here's where we reunite with Interstate 37, and from here we're going to be concurrent with it until 37's northbound terminus. Here in the heart of San Antonio, we'll meet with Interstate 10, getting signed for El Paso and Houston respectively, and we're now getting signed north for Johnson City. we're not even to downtown San Antonio yet, so why is TxDOT changing the control city to Johnson City? That should be downtown San Antonio, or the airport, not Johnson City. Here's the main exit for downtown San Antonio, along with the Alamo. In fact, that's where I got this hat from. And here's my own picture of the northern terminus of Interstate 37, where we can see that 281 is now getting signed north for the International Airport in Johnson City. To be honest, I'd actually prefer to see something else besides Johnson City, because Johnson City only has like 1,900 people, and we also still pass through a couple of big suburbs along the way to Johnson City, so I'd like to see maybe Bulverde instead, please. Anyway, still within the San Antonio Metro, we're meeting with both Interstate 410 and the exit towards the International Airport here. And here's the northern meeting with Loop Highway 1604, and this is actually the northernmost section of US 281 that I've personally been on. Also, I've been on this part of Loop Highway 1604, as we're going to be seeing more of those photos when we do southbound here in the next couple of weeks. Here we get another mileage sign. We're now getting signed for Blanco from 26 miles away. This is in Bulverde. And now a ways up the road in Spring Branch, we're now getting Johnson City as our primary from 34 miles away, which I am okay with here because that is the next major town we'll be passing through. Here outside of Johnson City, we're meeting with US Highway 290, which will actually take you over towards Austin. And here is where we split off from US 290 as we'll head west towards Fredericksburg. No, not that Fredericksburg, Texas, because the real Fredericksburg is actually east of here, and we're now getting signed north for Burnett. And in fact, our next mileage time, we're now getting Burnett as our primary from 37 miles away, with Marble Falls being our secondary. Here in Burnett, we meet with Texas Highway 29, and we're now getting nothing for 281 for some reason. I don't know why. But our next mileage time, we get a one-liner for Lampasas as our primary from 22 miles away. So that is a strange one-liner. Here in Lampasas, we meet with US 183, and we're now going to be concurrent with both 183 and US 190 here. Here's where we split off from US 183 and 190 as we're now getting signed north for Hamilton. In fact, our next mileage time, we do get Hamilton as our primary from 45 miles away, so TxDOT is being consistent here. And here at this small junction, we're meeting with US Highway 84 here, so that's pretty cool. And if you want to check out a series on US 84, it's in the top right corner here. It was made by my good friend Extreme Geography a couple years ago. I definitely recommend it. Here, but our next mileage time, we're actually now getting Stephenville as our primary from 57 miles away, which is a better choice than Hamilton. Skipping ahead to Stephenville, we meet with US Highway 67. Here in Stephenville, we meet with US Highway 67. Still in Stephenville, we meet with US Highway 377 as well, and we're now getting signed for the unincorporated community of Morgan Mill. I do not like that choice at all. That should be Mineral Wells, because outside of Mineral Wells, we meet with Interstate 20 there. Morgan Mill is just an unincorporated community. Why is it being signed? For our next mileage time, we do get Mineral Wells as our primary from 41 miles away. And outside of Mineral Wells, we meet with Interstate 20 being signed for Abilene and Fort Worth. And always up the road, we now get Jacksboro as our primary from 45 miles away. Here outside of Jacksboro, we meet with US Highway 380 being signed for Bridgeport and Dallas going eastbound, while 380 westbound is going to be concurrent with us as we head towards Jacksboro. And this is where we split off from US Highway 380 in downtown Jacksboro. We're now going to be continuing north towards Wichita Falls now. In fact, our next mileage time, we do get Wichita Falls as our primary from 58 miles away. And here in the Wichita Falls area, we're now going to be joining with US 82 and 287 as we're getting signed for Wichita Falls, because we're going to be heading into downtown. 82 eastbound and 287 are getting signed for awesome control cities of Texarkana and Fort Worth. Here is where US 82 splits off from us to head towards Lubbock, and we're now getting signed for Lawton and Amarillo because of US Highway 287. And if you're going to sign something because of Interstate 44, I'd actually prefer to see Oklahoma City instead of Lawton, please. And this is the start of Interstate 44 here in downtown Wichita Falls. And here is where US 287 splits off from US 277 and 281 as we're now getting signed for Burke Burnett and Lawton. This is terrible signage by TxDOT. This should be Lawton in Oklahoma City, or Burke Burnett in Oklahoma City if you want to keep it Texas City. I do not want to see Lawton on here. Lawton is okay for 277 and 281, but not for Interstate 44. But of course TxDOT wants to stick with Lawton being the primary from 47 miles away. Boo! And here we are crossing over the Red River and into the state of Oklahoma. So let us see what Oklahoma has to offer on US 281. And our first mileage sign in Oklahoma, we are getting signed for Oklahoma City, so that is a good. And here's where we're going to be joining up with US Highway 70 as we're now getting signed for Wakira. Oh wait, you're telling me that this is not the actual exit? This one is where there's no mention of US 277 or 281, and we're getting signed for Ramblett? That's literally the town we're being Interstate 44 in right now. This is terrible signage by Oklahoma. Oh boy, I'm getting US 70 flashbacks all over again. No. Here is where we split off from US Highway 70, and we're now going to be continuing north towards Lawton now. In fact, our next mileage sign, we do get Lawton as our primary from 31 miles away. On our way to Lawton, we are actually now getting another mileage sign, and we're now getting Walters as our primary from 8 miles away. And this here is at the Oklahoma 5 junction, and we're meeting with Interstate 44 for a second time, though we did not join it here. And for our next mileage sign, we actually now get Chickasha as our primary from 67 miles away. So we first made US 67, now we're getting a mileage sign with a city being 67 miles away. And now we're going to be rejoining with Interstate 44 as we head north towards Lawton. And I don't know why we need this small sign here when we can see in the distance that we're getting signed for Oklahoma City. This is pretty redundant here, Oklahoma. Here in Lawton, we meet with US Highway 62. I'm not going to have a concurrency with US 62 for a good while. Here is where we split off from Interstate 44 for good this time, and this is actually from here on out. US 281 will not be concurrent with any more interstates. So this is how rural US 281 is going to get. And we can see that we're now getting signed for Elgin, Apache, and Anadarko. When we split off from Interstate 44, we get a mileage sign with Elgin on the top line and Apache as our secondary. But instead of Anadarko, we get Fletcher as our primary instead, which is only 15 miles away. And they're favoring US Highway 277 here. And you want to know what the weird thing is? Fletcher is a quarter the size of Anadarko, and if we take a look, when 277 splits off from us, Fletcher's not even mentioned, so why in the world was Oklahoma signing out on that mileage sign? Like, why? In fact, our next mileage sign, we do get Anadarko as our primary from 27 miles away. Here in Anadarko, we split off from US Highway 62 as US 281 is going to be continuing north of here. On our next mileage sign, we're now getting Binger as our primary from 21 miles away. I looked at the population of Binger, and you want to know what it is? 437. I bet Quarter March 437 would not approve of this mileage sign. This should have Hinton on it, not Binger. But look, but once we get closer to Binger, we're now favoring an Oklahoma State Highway instead of sign for Hinton. No, I want to see Hinton. Luckily, here in Binger, we are getting signed north for Hinton as we split off from this Oklahoma State Highway here. And it looks like that Oklahoma is now pulling out its Arkansas. We're getting Interstate 40 Junction, so the next town will be signed for. Like, come on, man. Here outside of Hinton, we meet with Interstate 40, getting signed for Amarillo and Oklahoma City respectively. We're also going to be meeting with the historic US Route 66. And here we are going over the South Canadian River on this Route 66-like bridge, and yes, if you actually look on Google Maps, this is known as a Route 66 bridge. Also, this is a well-named river because we are well south of Canada. Skipping ahead to Geary, we're now going to be concurrent with US Highway 270, and if you want to check out the 270 concurrency, it's in the top right corner here because I actually covered it a few weeks ago. So skipping ahead to Sealing, we're splitting off from US Highway 270, and we're now going to have a short concurrency with US Highway 60 here. And here we get another mileage sign with Waynoka as our primary from 32 miles away. No, Waynoka only has a population of 700. I want to see Alva here instead, please, Oklahoma. And here is where we split off from US Highway 60 as I'll head towards Fairview, and we're now going to be continuing north towards Alva. In fact, our next mileage sign, we do get Alva as our primary from 53 miles away. Here we meet with the US Highway 412 in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, and we're going to still continue north towards Alva, along with towards the Little Savannah State Park here. And here in Waynoka, we pass right by Little Savannah State Park. Here in downtown Alva, we're now going to be joining with US Highway 64, and 64 and 281 are going to be concurrent here. Here's where we split off from US Highway 64 as 281 is now going to continue north into Kansas. And we get another mileage sign, and we're now getting signed for Pratt as our primary from 61 miles away. So that is awesome by Oklahoma here. Thank you for giving us a good mileage sign as we're exiting out of the state. And we're now entering into the state of Kansas.
What's a Kansas?
So let us see what Kansas has to offer on US 281. Here, our first mileage sign, we now get Pratt still as our primary from 49 miles away, with Medicine Lodge being our secondary. Here in Medicine Lodge, we're now going to become concurrent with US Highway 160 as we head towards downtown. But US 281 doesn't make it to downtown, that'll be US Highway 160, and we can see that we're still getting signed for Pratt. In fact, our next mileage sign, we do get Pratt as our primary from 30 miles away. Here in Pratt, we meet with US Highway 54 and US 400. I don't know why US 400 is a thing, like, why did they make it that? Anyways, up the road, we're now getting signed for Great Bend as our primary from 49 miles away, with US 50 being our secondary. Here we meet with US Highway 50 in the middle of nowhere, we're now getting signed for St. John. I thought we were being signed for Great Bend. Why are you changing up the control city, K-Dot? And now you're giving us a one-liner? Come on, I want to see Great Bend on here. St. John is literally the town that we meet US 50 outside of. Like, why not have Great Bend on here too, please? Here in Great Bend, we meet with US Highway 56, and we can see that we're now getting signed for Russell as our next control city. In fact, our next mileage sign, we get Russell as our primary from 37 miles away, with Hoisington as our secondary from 9 miles. And if you remember from my K4 video, we meet Kansas Highway 4 in the city of Hoisington. And our next mileage sign, we're now getting Osborne as our primary from 70 miles away, so that is a bit of a swing from here. Here in Russell, we meet with Interstate 70 along with US Highway 40 getting signed for Hayes and Salina. I'd actually prefer to see Topeka and Denver, please, instead of these Kansas cities. But our next mileage sign, we now get Lincoln as our primary from 41 miles away, so it looks like that they're favoring a state highway here. Here in Osborne, we meet both US Highway 24 and the marker for the Geodetic Center of North America. And guess what US 24 is? Hey, I know this highway. US Highway 24 is 1,563 miles long, running from central Colorado all the way to Pontiac, Michigan at a junction with Interstate 75. And it is one of the original 1926 routes, as it originally actually ended in Kansas City instead of Colorado. But it also goes to the heart of the Rocky Mountains, and it is one of the few highways that actually runs through the infamous city of Lyman, Colorado. It also has a child route, US Highway 224. I believe there was also a 124, but it was decommissioned. And some highways that US 24 meets is US 281, US 6, Interstate 70, Interstate 55, Interstate 75, and many more. That's a little about US 24, and let us get back to US 281. And we can see that our next mileage time we now get Beloit, Kansas as our primary from 34 miles away. So it looks like that KDOT is favoring US Highway 24 here, while we're going to be heading north towards Smith Center. And here is where US 24 splits off from us to head towards Beloit, and we're going to continue north towards Smith Center now. And here in Smith Center we meet with US Highway 36, and we're not going to be concurrent with it as we head towards Mankato. And here's where we split off from US Highway 36, and we can see that we're getting a sign for the geographic center of the United States if you take US 281 here. And here's where we split off from US Highway 36, that we're now getting signed for Lebanon and Downs. So they're favoring Kansas Highway 181 here, which I do not like at all. Our next amount of time, we are now getting signed for Red Cloud. Red Cloud, Nebraska only has 900 people, and it's the first time that we entered in Nebraska. I want to see Hastings here. This is the fastest way to Hastings, and Hastings is like way larger than Red Cloud. Plus, we meet both US 34 and US 6 in Hastings, so there is reasons to sign Hastings over Red Cloud, Kansas. Like, what are you doing here? But the good thing is that you're recognizing the geographic center of the United States. That's the only good thing about this mileage sign. Anyways, here we pass right by the geographic center of the continental US, so that is pretty awesome. And we get a one-liner for Red Cloud from 19 miles away. I want to see Hastings. Sign Hastings. Now we're entering into the state of Nebraska, as we're going to be heading towards Hastings and Red Cloud. And here in Red Cloud we meet with US Highway 136, and it looks like a nice little small town, but it should not be signed on US 281 nor US 136. But our next mileage time, we do get Hastings as our primary from 39 miles away, so that is awesome to see. Here in Hastings, we meet with US 6 and 34 are now going to be concurrent with both highways as we now head towards Grand Island. And I decided to skip the US 34 and 6 concurrency because you can check it out in both of those, the 34 and 6 video. And we can see that US 81 is now going to be continuing north towards downtown Grand Island. Here we meet with US Highway 30 getting signed for downtown Grand Island, and we're going to continue north into rural Nebraska. And our next mileage time, we actually now get O'Neill as our primary from 111 miles away, which I think is an okay choice because along the stretch of US 281, St. Paul is the only sizable town. Like, there is nothing for miles along this road. Here in St. Paul, we meet with Nebraska Highway 92, which is actually part of a Super 92, which I would like to cover someday. In fact, our next mileage time, we are still getting O'Neill as our primary from 90 miles away, so I'm going to take advantage of that and jump straight ahead to O'Neill. Here in O'Neill, we meet the Great US Highway 20 along with the northern terminus of US 275. And if you want to check out a series on US 20, it's in the top right corner here. Here's where we split off from US 20 westbound, as 281 is going to be continuing into South Dakota now. And here we get into mileage time with Spencer on the top line and Butte, Nebraska as our primary from 41 miles away. They're actually favoring Nebraska Highway 12 here, which I do not like at all. And while Spencer is still a tiny town, it is one of the bigger towns I'll be passing through for a good while, so I think Spencer should actually be a one-liner here instead of having Butte, Nebraska as our primary. But once we get closer to Spencer, we're now getting signed for Fort Wrangell Dam as our primary from 23 miles away, and that's actually in South Dakota, so I kind of agree with that, because there's nothing really to sign in South Dakota for a good while still, so I think signing a dam here is pretty fine. And now we're entering into the state of South Dakota, and this is our first time in the state on this channel. Yippee! Anyways, our first major junction is with US Highway 18, and we're not getting signed for Lake Andes. So when we saw that previous mileage sign, Lake Andes would also be a good choice, as well as Fort Randall Dam. In fact, our next mileage sign, we do get Fort Randall Dam on the top line and Lake Andes as our primary still from 18 miles away. And here's where US 18 and 281 will turn north towards Armour now. And when we split from US Highway 18, we can see that US 18 is being signed for Tripp, which Tripp herself does not like at all. And here we get a one-liner for Armour from 5 miles away. To be honest, I'd also like to see Plankinton on here too, because that's where we're going to be meeting with Interstate 90 and is double the size of Armour. Oh boy, speaking of Interstate 90, what's in the world are these control cities? We get Mitchell for eastbound and Plankinton for westbound. I looked it up, and there's practically no difference to get to Plankinton by either taking 281 here or Interstate 90 over towards the next exit. Like, this is NC dot level signage. Like, no one's heard of these places. Like, I thought you were awesome with interstate signage, South Dakota, but apparently not, because you're signing 2 places that no one has ever heard of. Like, what are you doing here? But at least US 281 does get signed for Aberdeen, which is a great choice and the biggest city that we pass through in the entirety of South Dakota. In fact, our next mileage sign, Aberdeen, is a good distance from 124 miles away, which I think is okay because, like I said, it is the biggest thing that we pass through in the state of South Dakota, and I think since O'Neill as well, so that is pretty far. Here we meet with US Highway 14, and we're now getting signed for Miller and Redfield. Redfield is actually for us, and Miller is for US 14. Here's where we split off from US Highway 14, as we're going to be continuing towards Redfield now. And our next mileage sign, we still get Aberdeen as our primary from 70 miles away. Here in Redfield, we meet with US Highway 212, and 281 is going to be continuing north towards Aberdeen still. Here's where we split off from US Highway 212, and we still get Aberdeen as our primary from 40 miles away. And here in Aberdeen, we meet with US Highway 12 here, and we can see that we're now getting signed north for South Dakota Highway 10. Not an actual town, State Route 10. South Dakota, you're really giving off a very terrible first impression here. First, the Interstate 90 signage, and now pulling in Arkansas here. Like, come on, man, what are you doing? Why are you being so terrible? In fact, our next mileage time, we do get Junction South Dakota 10 from 17 miles away. I want to see Ellensdale or even Jamestown, North Dakota, not Junction Highway South Dakota 10. But luckily, on our next mileage time, we do get Ellendale as our primary from 17 miles away. To be honest, that's what should be signed over South Dakota 10 in Aberdeen. Should be signed over South Dakota 10 in Aberdeen, not South Dakota. Now we're entering into our last state, the state of North Dakota, and we can see that we're already given a one-liner for Ellendale from 8 miles away. Here in Ellendale, we're now getting signed for Jamestown as our next control city, which is an awesome choice. That's for me, Interstate 94 and US 52. And jumping ahead to Jamestown, we do meet Interstate 94, and these are way better control cities than what South Dakota did on Interstate 90. So North Dakota, you probably need to go down south and teach your brother how to sign interstates correctly. And US 52 and 281 actually pass through the heart of Jamestown here, and it looks like a nice little city. Here's where we reunite with our bypass truck route, and we're going to be continuing north into rural North Dakota. Here in Carrington, US 52 splits off from us as they'll join up with the North Dakota Highway 200, which is part of the Super 200. And we can see that US 281 is now getting signed north for New Rockford, which I think is an okay choice because it's a decently sized town for this area of North Dakota. For our next mileage time, we now get Devil's Lake as our primary from 57 miles away, which is an even better choice because it's slightly larger than New Rockford. Though when we meet North Dakota Highway 57 here, we can see that we're now getting signed for Fort Totten and Devil's Lake. And now we're going to be joining up with US Highway 2 as we're now getting signed for Cando and Devil's Lake still, while US 2 westbound will take you over towards Leeds. And here's where we split off from US Highway 2 as we're now getting signed for Churches Ferry and Cando. For the next mileage time, we now get Rolla from 57 miles away. So it looks like North Dakota is stealing from Missouri here. And after going through Cando, we're now getting Rolla still as our primary from 41 miles away, so this is cool, thank you. Here in Rolla, we can see that our next control city is now Dunseith from 21 miles away, and this road here will actually take you over back towards North Dakota Highway 66. In our next mileage time, we now get Peace Gardens as our primary from 35 miles away, where we're still concurrent with North Dakota Highway 5 here. And here in Dunseith, we split off from North Dakota Highway 5, and we're now become concurrent with North Dakota Highway 3 as we head towards Peace Garden and the port of entry here. For our next mileage time, we actually now get Brandon, Manitoba as our primary from 76 miles away. That is awesome here by North Dakota, and is way better than the port of entry, so yay. And 14 miles up the road, US 281 finally ends here right at the US and Canada border in International Peace Garden. So with that, we're going to be ending US 281 and we're going to be moving on to the way it should be. So these are all the places that I think should be signed on to 81 northbound. And the reason why I'm doing this is because there really wasn't anything interesting enough for an entire full all the places I'll go with, so I'm doing a way it should be for both directions separately. Starting off, we're going to do Progresso, then Farr, then Edinburgh, then Alice, then George West, then San Antonio, then Pleasanton because we split off from 37, then San Antonio once again, then Downtown, then Bulverde, then Johnson City, then Lampasas, then Stephenville, then Mineral Wells, then Jacksboro, then Wichita Falls, then Oklahoma City instead of Lawton, then Ardmore, then Lawton, then Anadarko, then Hinton, no Binger, then Watauga, then Woodward, then Alva, then Medicine Lodge, then Pratt, then Great Bend, then Russell, then Smith Center, then Hastings, no Red Cloud, then Grand Island, then O'Neill, then Spencer, then Lake Andes, or you can also do Fort Randall Dam, and then Armour, Planklinton, then Aberdeen, then Ellendale, then Jamestown, then Carrington, then New Rockford, then Devil's Lake, then Rolla, then Dunseith, then finally Brandon, Manitoba. And that ends US Highway 281. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that US 281 northbound episode, and I can't believe that for our first impression, South Dakota did actually pretty terrible. Like, what was that Interstate 90 signage, and why are we being signed for a state highway instead of our next major town? Like, that's just, Anyways, here are my next few highways. If you have any intersection requests for any of these upcoming highways, please let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to shout you out once these highways release. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all next week as we do Interstate 410 in San Antonio. Bye!